Especially if you want to get out of
Perek Chav Zayin. Let's learn Perek Chav Zayin. So the Alter Rebbe is going through a series of things to think about in order to avoid sadness, melancholy. The Alter Rebbe wants us to be besimcha. The ima atzvos eino medaigas avonos. Let's say someone whose sadness is not driven by things that he did wrong in the past.
No, you should be good.
Elo, what's bothering him? The fact that irhurim royim v'tayvis royis shenefel is b'machshavta. The fact that there are machshavas here, a yid turns around. He's like, I daven, I learn, I go to shul, I learn Hasidus, I learn Tanya. And like, I don't understand why do these kinds of thoughts appear to me that are just so distant from my, like, I don't want them. Like, please. And that bothers me. Why does it come to me? It's important to remember, I mean, these are basics, but the word is neufleis b'machshavta. Because Alter Rebbe already explained to us earlier, especially in Perek Yud Beis, that the Beinoni is not liable for thoughts that fall in. It's only when you continue willingly to indulge them that it becomes an Aveira. So here we're talking about someone, he has taivas that are neuflis b'machshavtoi, and it bothers him. Hine im neuflis leishalei b'shas ha'aveda, if these thoughts come to him, not during davening and learning. Ela beis aske ba'asokov. B'derech eretz uchai gavna, when he's involved in worldly matters. Says the Alter Rebbe, Adarabba, why are you saddened? Yesh loy lismayach bechelka, you should rejoice. Meaning, why do you feel defeated? Why do you feel lowly by having these thoughts occur to you? You should be happy, because this is your opportunity to serve Hashem. Even though these thoughts fall into your mind, you turn away your mind. You are now fulfilling a mitzvah. The mitzvah not to follow your eyes and not to follow your heart. So what does it mean not to follow your heart? Right? Not to indulge. A thought comes into your mind, and you distract yourself and you do something else. Now the Alter Rebbe brings the entire pasuk. You know what I mean? Like he brings the whole length. The Alter Rebbe could have just brought V'loi sasuru, lekayim v'loi sasuru, achrei levavchem. So, thank you. The pshat is that it's very important to the Alter Rebbe to bring the second half of the pasuk of Asher Atem Zoinim. Because Alter Rebbe has an argument. He says, "Ve'ein ha'kosuv medaber b'tzadikim." This pasuk, in other words, tzadikim also have. One could say that at every level there's a v'loi sasuru. By the biggest tzadikim, it's like.
Sukkah set up even stronger. That the more holy person, the more.
Where is that? Where? So who?
Masechta Sukkot.
Oh, Masechta Sukkah. Oh, Agadol Mechaver Yitzchak. But I often talk about this, that there's a yechidus of the Rebbe, the Skolyer, the Gute Yid, Skolyer Rebbe came to visit the Rebbe in yechidus. He asks the Rebbe 3 questions in Tanya. It's a very interesting yechidus in Yiddish. I mentioned it many times. Once I typed, like I did, like dictation. I typed all the words just because I wanted to play it for my students, and they needed to have it to be able to read it. So one of the things he asks the Rebbe.
You typed it in Yiddish.
Yeah, so they could follow along. Anyway, so he asks. It says at the first page of Tanya, it says tzaddik. It's a shoiftan, right? So there's a lashon there, Rashi, yesh biyode lechoife, and it's about a tzaddik. He says a tzaddik could do a skafia. So he asks the Rebbe, what do you mean? A tzaddik doesn't do a skafia. A tzaddik only does his hapcha. So the Rebbe answers that, of course, tzaddikim also have a skafia, and by them it's even harder. Why? Because by a Beinani, if he's not going to keep himself in check, he's going to do an Aveira. But by a tzaddik, if he's not going to keep himself in check, what's happening? He's just a little less. He's not, in other words, you have to always grow. So, the Rebbe speaks about tzaddik, yeah. Tzaddik, very beautiful, Yechid is very beautiful. Madafa's head, Muzda's head. And I think it's
not on YouTube.
It's in the early mems. Maybe Mem Gimel. I don't remember exactly. Very beautiful. Anyway, so that's in other words, you could have said, but once the pasuk concludes, Asher Atem Zoinim, so we're not talking about tzaddikim, because tzaddikim don't have that inyan. It doesn't occur to them. It doesn't even occur to them. So Alter Rebbe says, "Ve'ein hakosav medaber b'tzaddikim, l'karam zoinim chas v'shalom." You can't refer. Elo b'beinim. It's referring to Beinanim, Kayotzebay. So, what does this Kayotzebay mean? So there's a whole.
Not necessarily Russia.
There's a whole discussion here. Right. So one is that within Beinanim, what does Kayotzebay mean? Someone like him. Kayotzebay, like him. Pagabay, Kayotzebay, right? He met his match. Kayotzebay. So what does it mean? There are different levels of Beinani. Some Beinani are like a Beinani, I'm a spalo color, like a high level Beinani. So he says Beinani, Kayotzebay, that's like this, that's at the level of Zainim. That the Pasuk is talking about. Right? That's one way of understanding Kayotzebay. In the first edition of Tanya, there's actually a Vav, V'Kayotzebay. And that means that the Alter Rebbe is including Rishoyim. Meaning, the pasuk is also talking to Rishoyim. It's not like, Beinanim, they have to do V'lo Sasuru. But Rishoyim, they could do whatever they want. But
we hear when you're saying to be besimcha, it's a very fine line.
Lekayim V'lo Sasuru. And from that, you should be besimcha.
Yeah.
I saw a short video. People they go to Las Vegas for fair market, fair to sell some construction. And they say every day we spend and do bad stuff, we bring something else broken also. Because Las Vegas is not like a city of sin.
Las Vegas,
So they have like extra luggage they brought with them back. Mitzvahs.
Okay, mitzvahs. That they have thoughts of niyuf. Beheter, even as a husband and wife, when it's not appropriate. When a person moves away his mind and learns Torah, he distracts himself. Mekayim lav zeh, fulfilling the lav. Amru Razal, Yoshav le'over aveira. It's literally like you did a mitzvah. Ve'alkein, therefore, tzarich lismayach bekiyum halav k'mei bekiyum mitzvahs hasei mamish. And you have to remember, tzaddikim can't fulfill this mitzvah. This is your mitzvah. Me. You're a tzaddik. Me, this is my mitzvah. Ve'adarabah. Now the Alter Rebbe goes off, he digresses, whatever that means. Ha'atzvus hi migasas haruach. The fact that the person has such a reaction, that it bothers him, that he has such taivus, that comes from a certain kind of arrogance, that he doesn't recognize his position. You have to recognize your place.
Is he saying it's bothering? Maybe it's bothering that
So yeah,
When you love somebody and you have something that's coming in the way, you're like
something that's not in your league. In other words, a person could fantasize. A person could imagine, like you could envy someone. No, but I'm saying, in other words, you could envy someone. You don't want to be poor, but you have to be the richest person in the world. You know what I mean? Okay, I want to be comfortable, fine, but to have such a hasaga, $1 billion, it's like I shouldn't have machshava zaros. Well, where is it? From where is it coming from? You have to be, Valkein Yer Alavave. That's why you're having this bad feeling. In other words, what's the premise of being disappointed that you have machshava zaros? The expectation that I'm a tzaddik. I daven and I learn. I'm a tzaddik. Shel tzaddikim bevadai ein nevlim lahem hirhuri shtus kaelu. Tzaddikim certainly don't. It doesn't occur to them such silly things. So ki'ilu hayu makim mekim. If a person would recognize their true place, shehu rachik me'ed mimadregas tzaddik. He's not in that wiring b'chlal. Not only that, even to be a Beinani, that's what we say. Don't believe in yourself until the day you die. It's a huge undertaking to continue. So halavai, you are a Beinani. You're doing an amazing job. But halavai haya Beinani v'lei rasha kol yamav. Halavai, you will hold up this level for every moment. Afilu shah achas. And if so, okay. So now that you own who you are, you say, "Oh, I'm a Beinani." That's your path. Hashem gifted you with a distinct path. Va'avedasam, that's your avodah. Lichpeish hayetzer v'hahirur ha'elam me'alev l'meach, to conquer, to squash, to silence these silly thoughts that fall into your mind, these impulsive, that drop, and that's what we deal with all day. All day we have impulsive. To distract himself, to really push it aside with two hands, meaning to completely reject it. Canal, as mentioned above. So now the Alter Rebbe comes back, after explaining what's the source of the depression, he comes back to this simcha. You should be b'simcha because of b'chol dechiyah shematcheyu mimachshavtai. Every time you push it away from your thought, meaning it doesn't have to be that every single time your machshava zara falls into your mind, you push it away. You have to know that even one time that you push it away, it's an incredible joy by Hashem. Right? Chassidus often brings this mashal of tzipper hamadaberes. Right? That for a king, nothing excites him. He has everything. So yeah, it has to be something novel. By the Eibishter, that a basar v'dam who desires gashmias should serve him and should do because of him, should be doiche his interests in Inyane Eilam Hazeh, that's an incredible joy. Yeah. Right? It's like imagine, right? I don't know if you could say, imagine the a husband who's choshed that his wife is not loyal. And he has someone test her.
Right.
And
All
then,
he wants to do is
and what happens? And she's loyal. Imagine the joy that he has, the relief and the joy. That's by the Eibishter every time.
Oh, you're kidding.
You know the Busham story about sailor?
About a sailor? Not sure.
His son wife was a sailor on the boat.
Yeah. So it's incredible simcha. And the Alter Rebbe says Bechol dechia udechia shematcheva machshavte iskafia sitra achra lasata. We have subjugated, we have squashed our sitra achra, the klippa in us. And by us doing it, Hashem mirrors us. Ubeisarusa de lasata isarusa de laela. So when we do it, we cause iskafia sitra achra de laela. We cause that the klippa above becomes pushed down. Hamagbia atzma kenesher, that lifts itself up like an eagle, and we push it down. L'kayim mashakosu, to fulfill the pasuk. Im tagbia v'goymer, if you lift yourself up, misham eiritcha nu'um Hashem. Hashem says, I will push you down. And we cause that. And the Alter Rebbe doesn't stop. Ukemeshe hiflig, b'zoyar parshas truma. The Zohar Parshas Truma says, I want you to know, there is no joy by Hashem like the joy of Iskafia. You're going to say, wait, it's not even one of the Tayyag mitzvahs. It's not learning Torah. All mitzvahs that we do, all the Torah that we do in a certain way is in Mamalik Alaman. Iskafia is Soviv.
Wow.
Because to squash the klippa, in other words, whatever, yeah, you'll see. Because you have to remember, right? Because Torah and mitzvahs are kedusha. Over here, we're being mavatal klippa. It's deeper, and that's why the Alter Rebbe brings this mashal about the two types of food. Because spicy food touches you more deeply. It hits a different spot, and that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. When a person faints, you can't give them 7-Up, right? Yeah, because you have to. All the koiches hachitzonim are asleep. So you have to hit him in a deeper place. That's iskafia. Begoidol nachas ruach lefanav yizbarich kadiskafia siter achad l'sata. The istalik, becomes a revelation of Yekara de Kuchabrichu le'ela al kula, greater than any other behavior. Yatir mishvacha achra. More than any other way of praising Hashem. The Zohar says, "V'istalkusa tho," and this revelation, yatir mikoila v'chulu, is greater than all. And obviously, the lashon istalek is a strange way to say his galus, but because it's soviv, it makes sense. Because it's not revealed, we're not kalim for that kind of revelation. It's present, but it's in a different way. Thank you, Aaron, for the tea, making it possible to speak. Says Alter Rebbe V'lachein al yipelev adam olav. Don't be down. You shouldn't be very bitter, but a little bitter. Meaning, don't be besimcha that you got a machshava zara. Right?
I get to do it.
You know, don't be besimcha. Gam im kain kol yom of mulchamazu. Here there's another word.
You should have skipped the word in.
Here there's another word. In other words, some people, they experience that Avodas Hashem, I have a destination. What's the destination? I'm going to fight with a klipper, and at one point I'm going to win. If that's the goal, that we're going to win, so at a certain point you're going to be broken. I didn't reach my destination.
Yeah, right.
So that's why the Alter Rebbe says, no, that's the destiny. The journey is the avodah. That's not the goal. That's not your destination. You're a Beinani. That's the ulay lekach nivra. Gam im yiyeh kein kol yomov b'mulchama zu. You're not going to conquer it. Ki ulay lekach nivra. V'zeis aveda, say that's your aveda. Le'achfaya l'siter achra, told me that for your entire lifetime, you should have to be kaifa the Yitzhahara. Why means that's such an opportunity? Every day, you could show your wife your loyalty. Every day. It's an amazing thing. Imagine every day when my kids come home, I could show them that they're more important than my phone. That's a nachazach. It's all included. It's all. Now the Alter Rebbe comes back to answer a question on the first page of Tanya. Alter Rebbe asked, how could Eve say, Hashem, you created tzaddikim, you created Rishoyim? He doesn't say tzaddik v'rasha. He says, V'alzeh amar Eve, v'rasa Rishoyim. This is what Eve meant. Not that they're actually Rishoyim, not that they're actually sinning, chas v'shalom. Ella rather, sheyagi aleim kim ma'aseh harashoyim v'machshavtam v'yirhudam levad. That they should be plagued by thoughts, by temptation. V'hem yu nilchamim tomid. They're going to fight it. Lasiach daitam mehem kedei lachfay l'sitra achra. V'lo yuchlu levatla mikol v'chol. They cannot banish it completely. That's only through tzaddikim. Now, famously, the Alter Rebbe says, "Ushnei namine nachas ruach lemfonav yizbarach lamayla." There are two types of pleasures by Hashem. Echad mibitla sitra achra legamri. One, tzaddikim, they're bevatel. They transform darkness to light. It becomes light. Meaning, I'm a Talmud a little bit, a tiny bit of my whatever I learned from Rabbi Alter Metzger. So Zayin Gesund. Alter Metzger, his mashal for this was he in the 60s was in his heyday. Was he says you have a guy, a rock and roll band, with the groupies, with the whole business, and he becomes a Baal Tshuva. You have one guy, he breaks the guitar. Right? He breaks the guitar, because this is my connection to all the bad behaviors. And I can't do that, I gotta squash it. Then you have the other person, he takes the guitar, and now he's singing songs and being mekar of people to Yiddishkeit. So it's hapcha. He's not afraid of it. This is the tool, the actual tool, like the Gemara says, the Maisa with the sheets. You know what I'm talking about? The Maisa with the sheets. You know what I'm talking about? The Rebbe brings the Maisa with the sheets. No, that there was a woman that were on satin sheets, levels, whatever, and one of the Chachomim had a taiva, and he went to pay her. And he went to be with her, and he came, and he was going up the, and then he was disgarbing, and he took off his tzitzis, and he looked at his tzitzis, and he said he can't, and she asked him, where are you from? What's your name?
So she went to yeshiva,
and then she was nizgayer. And then she came to look for him in the yeshiva. There's a sikha of the Rebbe. And then the Gemara says that she brought the sheets into her home. They got married, and the Rebbe asks why, start fresh, yeah? Kopanim.
Pemianta, it's example when he used his guitar for Medusha.
Who?
Pemianta.
Yeah. So there are two avodas. One is complete transformation. Aidei tzadikim. Not everyone could do that.
What does it mean complete? Because Miriam means that they also started from Miriam.
Right, but now they're not. They no longer have a shot. They're not, in other words, like this. No, in other words, if the guitar was still questionable to him, if he still has a taiva, then he can't touch it. because it could take him, right? It's like the kid, he's going to Eretz Yisrael, to yeshiva. He's taking his guitar. He's like, I don't know, maybe Thursday night I'll end up in Ben Yehuda. I'm taking it for kids' rallies. No, I can't take it. I can't. Oh, exactly. So once a person reaches the level that
It's not once you reach it. He was born at
no, das ist noch Chazach. There are those and there are those.
Oh, you're saying it's tzaddik.
Yeah. That reached. That could reach. Yeah. The Ashen is, the second is Kariskafia Sitracha. You have people that they're crushing the Sitracha, Ba'oida, Betokva, Gvurasa, when they're still in their strength, with all their might, Magbia Atzma Kanesher, the Klippa, the darkness in their life keeps lifting up its head, like an eagle. Umesham Merida Hashem lowers it, crushes it, V'yisarusa de lasata, through our avodah, ayidei abenin. V'zeu she'emer HaKosov. This is the meaning of the pasuk that Yitzchak says to Yaakov, V'asei mat'amim, make me delicacies, ka'asher ahavti. Mat'amim, loshen rabim, 2 types of delicacies, shnei minei nachas ruach, 2 types of food. Vehu, the Zohar says that in addition to this being the statement that Yitzchak said to Yaakov, it's also Maimer HaShchina, Lebaneho. The Shechina says it to her children, Kolos Yisrael, Kedepirish B'tikunim, like the Zohar explains. Just like with physical food, Derech Moshel, Yeshnei Minim Adanim, there's 2 types of foods. Echad, a person prepares a meal, sweet, pleasant, mimacholim arevim umesukim. Vehasheni, the second type, is midvarim charifim echamutzim, very salty or very sour foods. Rak shehem metubolim umetukanim heitev. The person prepared them well. They're mixed well. They're prepared well. They really, it's lahashiv hanefesh. They have a stronger power. They impact. They're more pleasurable in a certain way than the sweet.
You mean spicy in a good.
Really, what he means is that there are certain foods that are not edible without preparation. Today we eat raw meat. Certain types of what the Gemara brings, a bean or squash or whatever it is that you can't gird. What's gird? I don't know what it is. You can't. The kenes nicht essen. You can't. You cook it 12 hours. You do whatever a certain way. Then could you weigh in a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
He was going to say gefilte fish.
That in front of sushi.
Ve'asheni, yeah. Zeo she'emer HaKosov. This is kavana. Pasuk says like this, another pasuk. Here, this pasuk, we have the plain taich, and then we have the pshat, the taich, tzidisha taich. Kol po'al Hashem l'maneu. Everything Hashem created in this world is for His own sake. V'gam Rasha l'yom ra. Even a Rasha, all his life he does whatever he wants. But Hashem there'll be a day of judgment. He'll be punished, and that's the pshat. What's the chassidisha taich? Kol po'al Hashem l'maneu. Everything Hashem created was for His sake. V'gam Rasha, a Rasha also l'yom ra. When he transforms the evil into day. That's the Avodah of Eskafia, Pirush. Sheyoshuv merishay. Ve'yasa harasha le'yoim ve'er l'mayla. It's going to become light. Kad Eskafia sita achra. Ve'estal le'kikar d'kuchabrichu le'ela. Again, it's very important to remember that this whole field only applies to Beinanim. Tzaddikim don't have access to this whole Inyan. And that's very, very important for the next section. The Alter Rebbe in the next section gives 3 examples of Eskafia. And he says, I want you to know, Iskafia is not only not to do an Aveira. Iskafia is also in Dvarim Hamutarim. Why? Because let's say you have a person, he only eats what he needs to live. In other words, if the US government says you need 2,000 calories a day, his doctor told him he weighs 20 pounds more, he gets to eat 2,200 calories a day. That's what he eats, 2,200 calories. So he's only eating hechrich, but he's going to enjoy it. You can't, right? He's a human being. You can't say it's 100% l'shem shamayim. He's eating like the Rebbe. You know, he has to do business. But he enjoys talking the numbers and crunching and this and so there's a certain, so by that person, if he delays it and and then he learns and he davens so there's a skafia in Dvarim Amutar.
You wanted to say something and you didn't say it.
Right, so that, but it's negeya by tzaddikim, even when they're eating, it's mamish. It doesn't make sense that a tzaddik should push off his meal. Because everything is Avodas Hashem. It's purely Avodas Hashem, every part. So it doesn't make sense. But only by a Beinani, that's why the Alter Rebbe is saying. Because he's not pure. So the Yetzirah, the Nefesh Habamis is mixed in. He's nashing. The Alter Rebbe says, even things that are completely mutter. The Alter Rebbe puts in the word legamre. That's why I was saying he only eats what's letzerich, his life. If a person, he shechts, and I mentioned this before, but it's important to remind, right? That the Maisa with Bet 11. Bet 11's father came to New York for Tishrei. The guest would go into the Rebbe twice. Right when they came and before they left. That was the Seder. He came from Eretz Yisrael. So he went into the Rebbe in Zichidus when he came and he told the Rebbe, I see my son and I see he's doing his kafir. Rebbe said, fast, this, he's busy with something, I see. Bet 11 went into the Rebbe for his birthday, whenever it was, and the Rebbe said to him, you know, I hear that it's not the way. So Bet 11, he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not saying it the way he said it, right? Yeah. But I'm just trying to give over the sentiment. He's like, Rebbe, you don't have to worry about me. My little Iskafius over there, don't worry. I'm not, it's not like I'm fasting Bahab, you know? So that's what he told the Rebbe. It's like, it's not so serious. So the Rebbe like, Mali kotla kula, Mali kotla palga. That's the words the Rebbe used. You kill it, there's no... Geharget, abyssal, it's the Zelda. Don't... Completely out. Just... Yeah.
But it was whole shit.
Yeah.
Rebbe shit about Moshe Leverton when he came. Rebbe said, you have to eat good, you have to sleep good, and everything is good, you will see this.
Okay.
You saw this? Like,
no.
So then what did they want from him?
That's not a place for Iskafia.
Not food.
You have to take care about your body.
That's
to
it.
eat,
So
the thing is that any person will have a lot of other places that can do this. Anything will have multi.
It's huge. More than anything, we're living.
And especially if he's married.
No, I'm saying more than anything, we live in a sleep-deprived world, and there's a lot of bechlal, especially in Lubavitcher Bocharim, because people talk about the Rebbe, right? The Rebbe never slept. So there's like a haunting, even though you're comparing yourself. But everyone thinks they could don't worry, Thursday night I don't have to sleep. We'll stay up a whole night, and then tomorrow anyway, we're not learning, we're going on Mitzvahim, this and that, and then they're crashing.
You know, they crash by the Seder.
Friday night. Right. No matter how many times you wake them up, there's nothing doing, right? But to get there, that's such a extreme of deprivation. The Rebbe is saying mamish 8 hours a night. Anyway, v'chulu. It's anyway.
Friday mornings, the Rebbe say that.
It's very hard. And Bechlal, the whole, what do you call it? Like the phones and all of that, phones, movies, all of that, deprives people of sleep. Because in the middle of the day you go to work, or you're in yeshiva. So then at night you're on your phone. So everyone's up on 4 hours of sleep. No one can function.
All those therapies, they learn first of all about check patient about his wellness. If he eats properly.
And then they want to do a scaffold. They should do a scaffold on the phone.
And then they should eat normal.
Lassen wir sehen weiter.
Is this harder?
Umiskaven, but you see, kol ma she'adam zeveach yitzre afilu shah kala, even for a short while. Umiskaven la'afaya l'sitra achra. Right? Your point is, shebachal la'asmalik, you ain't shechafetz lechel, uma'acher sodasi, you push off your meal, ad lacher sha'ipach, is basic betera, basic shah. If you say, I'm going to work more, I'll stay in my office another 20 minutes, you didn't accomplish anything. I just want to say, when again, this idea of an hour shah ipachis, so I'm just something off the beaten path of the pshetlach and whatever. One of my friends, when he was in yeshiva, he wrote a pilpul about the Alter Rebbe and Shulchan Aruch, about tefillin and talis and esachadas and beze gimel shoyes and whatever it is. Anyway, so I remember one of the things he was saying is that everything in Chazal, every practice has a certain duration, an appropriate duration. How long is a meal supposed to take? How long is davening supposed to take? So, a davening is supposed to be, what does it say? Chsidim Arishonim. They daven 3 hours. 1 hour before, 1 hour Shmein Esrei. And what does it say about regular people? Shomech. So the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya. So with a talis, Beze Gimel Shoes. If you take off your talis 2 or 3 hours, then it has chadas. You have to make a new bracha, because that's the shear. Right? What's he saying here? He says, Ma'acher Sudase for an hour. A Suda, by definition, is about an hour. The shear of a Suda is an hour. Pachis, by other people, it's a little less, but an hour. Kedisa b'Gemara, Shah Revius, Michael Koladom. It doesn't say at the 4th hour. Shah Revius, they would have an hour.
That's when yeshiva, it's already like that. Lunch is 2 o'clock.
Shah Shishis, right. Shah Shishis, meaning 12 o'clock. Michael Talmidei Chachamim. Why would they eat later? They were learning Torah before, and they were learning Torah after. It's not like, I'm learning till 12. No, they're learning before, they're learning after. But they're ma'acher the suda, kedei to have
So if somebody's working, he can do the same thing.
No, because that's also for the nefesh habamis, making more money. In his mind,
he's going to work before and he's going to work after.
So I'll say the chaguf.
The Rebbe of Shishka, he woke up in the middle of the night and he wanted a shmek tava.
Oh, yeah.
Then another voice came out, no, you're just lazy. So to prove something, he went to get last year, he went all the way to the box, opened up the box and closed it and went. Just to make sure that it's it doesn't work.
Shegam achar asuda yulemdim kolayim. V'chein, good. V'chein im boilem piv meledaber dvarim shelibe misave me'oy ledabra me'inyon yo'elom. It's a tremendous taiva. It's not avera. You know what? However the heter is, you're in business. And you want to do a name dropping. You want to say, I met this one, I met that one, whatever it is. So he's mis'ava ma'oid. People have such a taiva to say such things, that he famous for. He rubbed noses with this one, with that one. Not to do it. Famachem, no.
Or to share a photo on WhatsApp.
V'chein. Bir hurei machshavtei. something I feel me'at miz'er, a tiny bit iskafia. Iskafia sitra achra lesata. We have iskafia here. Estali ke kore de kochabrichu to shose. Le'ela harbe. Now, the Alter Rebbe now moves into the word kedusha. Because when a person does iskafia, they're separating themselves. They're showing control. They're putting distance between themselves and the behavior. That's Kedusha. By us bringing Kedusha into our life, we're increasing Kedusha by the Eibishter. And this is, the idea that Alter Rebbe writes at the end of Igeres HaTshuva Yud Beis. In Yud Beis he writes the mashal of the sun. That when the sun moves an inch on the ground, in heaven it moves 1,000 miles. So when we do a tiny bit of eskafia, lamata, we're being goyim lamaila, incredible movement. So he says, harbe, umikdusha zu, from the kedusha, the le'ela harbe, from the eibishter's kedusha, nimshechas kedusha al yena ala adam. It gifts the person, l'sayeh siyu arav va'otzim la'avidas yizbarech, to help him. V'zeu she'amru razal.
But he's still having the word his whole life, so he's not gaining from this help. Okay.
Zeu she'amru razal.
He still has to overcome the obstacle.
Zeu she'amru razal. Odom mekadesh atzmei ma'at lamato. Mekachinoi se harbe mo'mayla. When a person truly does iskafia, you see it all the time in the world. It's like a person stops smoking, whatever, right? And then suddenly they're like, wow, I could overcome. Let me take another part of my life. Suddenly the ambitions are different. There are people, throughout a lifetime, these things happen all the time. You stop eating sugar. And then it doesn't, the way it was, the way, the draw and this and the hunger and the pain. And it's like, people when they're in the zone, when they're losing weight, it's like, that's it. So it happens. It's like, mitamo, suddenly, it's like skafia. Here you were in a state that you woke up in the morning chalashing for a cigarette. In the middle of the night you went out and you got to take a cigarette, like you couldn't stop. And now suddenly it's just, akoponim. Yeah. Levad, besides the fact, Mashem Mekayim mitzvahs hasei shel Torah. We do a little bit. In other words, you don't have to don't stay up a whole night. A little bit. You went to sleep 15 minutes later. Levad Mashem Mekayim mitzvahs hasei shel Torah v'skadish to me being Mekayim, the mitzvah of making yourself holy. And the Alter Rebbe explains, "Kashem mekadesh asmei b'mutalei, upirush v'hiskadishtem, tasu atzmachem." Make yourselves, although you truly aren't. K'loi ma'afshe be'emes einei kadosh umuvdol misitra achra. Be'emes, we embrace klippe. Ki b'tokfo b'gvarasa ketel dasa b'chal lasmoli, because it's in full strength. Rak shekevish yitzrei, mekadesh atzmei. Really harnesses himself. What does the pasuk say? He yisam kadosh. Koloimar soifay biyos kadosh. The end will be, you'll be distanced. You'll be moved to be'emes me'asiter achra. Aydei shemekachem meisi harbe mo'maylo Messiah meisi. The Eibishter helps you legarsho milibay ma'at to push it away slowly, to push it away. Push it